Hello again and welcome back to part 6, and this time around we are hopefully finishing off the login functionality. We're putting the client and the server functionality together, meaning that I will swap out the dummy client that I have with another actual client, and then we will see if I can make it all fit together. That's the idea. So I'm keeping my dummy client instead of modifying it, and you might do the same in the semester project, because maybe things change and you need some functionality that's still not ready on the server, and then you can just swap back to your dummy client and use that until the functionality on the server has been expanded, or so that you can use that part. So I'm keeping the dummy client for now. So let's see if you remember. Then let me just find the UML diagram. Alright, here we go. And as you remember, hopefully, or maybe I'll go back and watch the other videos to refresh, but we implement the client part initially with the dummy client and then the server part. So I have these two parts and they are working separately. I have a dummy client to test the server and they seem to work. So what we want to do today is just make this client here so that we can swap that in instead. So let us just close all that and let me find the client side networking. I have a dummy client, but I also need a I will call it socket client. Alright, and this one must implement client and implement methods. So I have both the observable part and my login. And I'm just steal something from in here. Probably change support, that's fine. I'm going to need that one, yep. And I'm going to need these down here. Swap them out. All right. Good. So in the dummy client, the login would loop through my list of users kept in the client, but now we want to actually send something to the server and make a connection there. So I'm going to create a constructor like this, and we're going to say, do I need anything in here? Probably not for now. I will create a start method to run everything, and what I want to do here is to instantiate my socket. So that I can connect to the server. We just go localhost, and the port was 2910. Like that. And I probably need to wrap this Control-Alt-T, and I get the surround with, and I want to try catch. Alright. And once I have this, I will maybe I will save this as a field variable. There we go. And then I want to say, this is the method I want to run in a separate thread. Private void listen to server. We go new thread, and my lambda expression, say listen to server dot start. Okay, so we just do that. So basically now I am connecting to the server, I'm starting a new thread, and in that thread I'm running this part here. Now I know that in a lot of the diagrams in class, I also had a client socket handler, just like I had a server socket handler, but I think I'm trying something different and just doing the listening part in here. And we'll see how that goes, and maybe the client will be filled up with way too much, and I will refactor that out to be a separate client socket handler. But for now we will just do it here. So the first thing I need to do is to create my input and output streams. And let me just check. We're creating the out first, so I need to create the in first on the other side. So we go in from server is equal to a new object input stream with the socket get input stream. And this one, do I just want to throw this? Then I have to catch it up here. That's probably fine. That didn't happen. Existing catch clause. Maybe I cannot throw out of exception. We will just catch it here. So try catch. Okay. This one here, in from server, that can just be a local one, I think. Right. And then I need the out to server, new object, output stream with my socket, and I get the input stream, output stream, I get the output stream like that. And this one I need as a field variable so that I can use it different places. Okay, and then we have a while true. I want to listen forever, basically. And we go in from server, read object. Oh, read object. Yeah. I know I am reading a request. So I just cast it here. Yeah, import it. Request and add exception. And just collapse these two. There we go. And based on the request, well, what do I currently have? I can get back a where did I put that? Shared data train event type. I can have a login request and a login result. So the login result is something that I can get back here. So if request, maybe I'll rename that to just be rec. I'm being lazy. Type equals to event type login request. Yeah. Then I want to do something, and I'll just put a to do here. Come back to that. And the to do's here actually implement login response. Right. I think the to do's are pretty nice in IntelliJ. You have your to do list down here, and here you can see all your to do's in your. So it's basically a to do list, which makes sense. So these are pretty nice to put comments to yourself around the around your code. All right. Let's just do this one here. This is what is called from the model. If I click this to see, yes, I want to see usages, and I can see it is being called from the model manager, client login. All right. So this is where I want to send the user to the server. Basically, what's happening if we're looking at the client class diagram, maybe the sequence diagram here, right? Model calls on the client with an account. I actually call this user now. Let me just remove that. That's pretty annoying with the colors. No, not the colors, but I can't click on anything because of what's behind. I always catch the box. Right, this one is not, it's a user. Yes, I just saved one character. What am I going to do with all that time I just saved? Let me remove that, and I will do something different. Yeah, fine. Can I color this? I want red, yes. Can I set a width? Line color? Nah, not. Nah, never mind. All right, and I want to put this at the back. Okay, but we are here. the model is calling this on the user, and the user must send the request to the server handler, sending the user to the client, and the client must send it on to the server socket handler. And that just means we're going to say, I want to send a request. That's what I'm sending back and forth. Reg equals new request, and the type is of login request. All right. That means I up here should listen for a result. Messed that up. Right. I request a login verification, and I want to send the user. There we go. And then we say out to server, write object, reg. And this one must be added in as try catch. Okay. At some point, I would of course, instead of just printing this out, I should show some kind of alert to the user saying that something went wrong. Instead of just printing this out, a nicer way of handling the exceptions would be to give feedback to the user. Otherwise, something may not, the user will expect something to happen, but it doesn't happen, and then they're confused, or they think they put something in the database, but something went wrong, and they're not notified about it. And it's nice to give feedback to the user. I could, for example, just use the same label that I show errors in if I input the incorrect password. So let's say, so I'm sending it to the server, right? Now I'm sending to the server, and then I get a response back, and I need to fix that up here. And what do? I could actually look in my dummy client. Well, I just fire result. In here we say login result string. I could actually just do no, this is okay. And I'm getting a string back. So I cast it, and we say argument. All right. I just put null because there's nothing before. I don't actually need to cast it because this one takes an object, right? So I just do this, and I mean I could put that there instead. Maybe it's more clear that this is what we're doing. I could, of course, shorthand this a little bit. If we forget this now, maybe I'm going to have to change this later on. I'm not entirely sure. So we go the event type and to string, and I just send the argument, right? Because I'm going to have to cast it on the other end anyway. So maybe this is, let's try this. So whatever event I get, I just give it that event type. I fire an event with that name, and I give it the object that I got from the server. So if I am lucky, I don't really have to expand upon this in the future. And we'll see how it goes. Maybe I am going to need the if else, and so on. All right. Here I might actually I could just send here in a similar way. Instead of doing this, if I want to display an error to the client, to the user, I could just say it's still the event type, login result, and then here I will say connection lost, restart program, or whatever, right? And this one, here, toString. Okay, so now I'm actually sending something to the user. They try to log in. I send an error message back again. I don't have a specific message to send here, so I don't know. We'll leave it like this for now. And I think this is actually it. all I need. I'm listening, I'm sending, right? We just needed to connect this part to that part, right? I had everything else. So now I'm sending a request and I'm also listening for a response back again. So we're sending the request and I'm listening for a response back again. Let's just put that here. Listen for requests from the server. Right, that's what we're doing here. So I think we should check and see if this works. Let me just build it and then I'm running it. Hang on. All right, build successful. Let me run stuff. Where do we have? I have a server. I don't need my test client. I'm just leaving it. Maybe I'm going to need that later on. Similar to why I'm not deleting my dummy client. My test client may be needed if one of the other me's in the group is going to expand on the server to make ready for some functionality that the client needs. Then I can just keep my test client and use that to interact with my server until the client is ready. So let's run this. And I wonder if I can set up that it doesn't have to build. If I just build it and then run it, there's no need to build it again. And let's see, maybe I'll Google that at some point. Okay, run this. And here we go. And boom. What was the usernames? It's been a while since I made the last video. Let's see, in memory I have a tools and tools 1 to 3. Okay, so let's just test and see tools and tools 1, 2. It should say incorrect password. Wonderful. What if I do this? User not found. And what if I do this? Amazing. What if I shut down the server? My client will... I thought it would complain. Let's try again. Result okay. My service. Yes. Okay, that's stupid. That is stupid. So what is the problem here? Well, I'm still using the dummy client. So in this one here, no, that one there, I'm making a client factory. And in my client factory, I'm still using the dummy client. I feel pretty stupid. All right, so let's change that to the server client. So now the server client is used throughout the system and we're running stuff again. Here we go. Go server. I'll just pause until it starts. All right, so I got a null point exception and you might as well see this. Hang on. Right, I tried to run my so my server's running. I tried to run my Battleship server. It spits out all this and I scroll to the top and we see there's nothing here I recognize. Null point exception, wonderful. Right, a null point exception that happens when I try to call a method on a variable that is null. I can see my stack trace here. So this is where it all happened. This is where I started. So the initial call here to the start method, then the start method calls the open login window view, and the view says to the controller, hey, you should initialize this with the get login view model, and then the view model factory will get the login view model with the model, and the model factory will get the client, and the client has been started. But yeah. And then here I say client add property change listener, and that method is going to here, and this is where the top one is. This is where the null pointer actually happened, right? So why do I get a null pointer exception from this line? So again, a null pointer is when I try to call a method on a variable that is null. This is the only method call I'm doing. That means that this variable here must be null. We scroll to the top. Where's my circuit support? Oh, it's gray. It's never assigned, so IntelliJ actually warns me here. So I'm not instantiating this to anything. I have declared it, but it's just null. So let's go here and say support equals new support, and I see this all the time, null pointer exceptions all over the SEP projects, and you really should, you know, it's quite important that you are able to figure out and solve a null pointer exception by yourself. So again, you get a null pointer exception, you click the top one, this is where it happens. Now I wrote some code, so you find what am I calling a method on. Sometimes you are calling multiple methods, that's like this. And then maybe you go sub string null, and then you say trim, and that returns, and you go equals, right? So I'm calling a bunch of methods here, and at some point it fails, and that just means you have to refactor your code. So in order to figure out which one of these fails, I will do this, right? I'll make that one, and then on the substring, right? So I just so basically I want to have only one method call per line. Then it's much more clear when it spits out. It will say, oh, it's actually line 68 that fails. So it fails here. Okay, I know this is not the problem, but I can figure out why is this null. The substring here is, why is that null? So that's a super quick walkthrough with an approach to solve null pointer exceptions. They are usually the easiest problems to solve, so you should be able to at least practice that. So I have now instantiated my support, right? It's no longer null. Let us, my server is still running. I didn't change anything in the server, so I don't need to restart that one. And let's try this one again. And I'm just going to pause. All right, here is the window. Let's try again. I have trolls 1, 2. This should say incorrect password. God damn it, another one. This one happened here. Sorry, client. I am trying to send that. So this is null. Why is this null? Listen to server, that should be started. I'm not calling the start method. You see this is gray. I am instantiating the client, but I'm not starting it. I could put this in the constructor. As I've mentioned before, I like to have a separate start method. Maybe that's biting me in the ass now. Let's find the this one here. We just say client start. And then I have to cast it, otherwise it should be in the interface of the client. Then maybe I don't want to do that. I will call the start method from here. Maybe I'll change it later on, we'll see. Okay, still haven't changed anything in the server, that's still running, wonderful. We try this again. And here's my window. Really thought this would have gone slightly more easy. Log in. And what happens now? Not okay. Okay, so this is a new thing, right? Illegal state exception, not FX application thread. That means I'm trying to modify some JavaFX stuff from a thread that is not the GUI thread, not the FX application thread. And how does this happen? We covered this in the MVVM and Observer session. So I have a thread here. I've created my own separate thread. This is not a GUI thread. When I call the launch here, this will create a JavaFX thread, and the FX thread is allowed to touch and modify the GUI stuff. But I am working with, let me just click all of this. My socket client, where did you go? Here we go. Okay, Control N will let you search for classes, event type, whatever. Right. So I'm starting a thread that is not the FX thread. Whenever I receive something from the server, I fire a support, a change. My model manager in the client is listening for this one. So whenever that happens, we go here. Okay, so we are still working on the normal Java thread. This method is called from a Java thread, not the FX thread. I am sending another notification, login result, and I wonder if my login the view model, it's blue. Have I modified anything in here? I don't know. The login view model is also listening to this. So on the login response. Okay, so this method here is called from the not Java FX thread, and I'm trying to modify what is a string property, and that is not allowed unless it's from the Java FX thread. So we go platform.run later, and we say I want to run stuff, which is this stuff, right? So now I'm telling the JavaFX framework, platform, whatever, I would like to execute this code whenever you have time. And I'm basically putting this execution in some kind of queue, or, well, I'm not entirely sure what happens, but I just run this ASAP whenever you have time, right? So that means this method is called on the not JavaFX thread. And then I say to the JavaFX thread, hey, could you execute this part for me? And that should be enough. And we go again. I still haven't changed anything on the server. It's still running, I think. Yeah. I actually got my, I got to the server part. I just failed when I tried to receive a response. So incorrect password. Okay, let's see what is going. I'm just waiting for the window to pop up, and it's almost there, and it is actually there. Let's try again. Fingers crossed. Incorrect password. Here we go. Incorrect password. Wonderful. Username not found. Okay, I can actually log in. And what happens if I shut down the server now? Well, my client should spit out the connection is reset, and that means that it's trying to connect to it was in the process of interacting with the server, but then the connection was lost. And that happens because I'm trying to read something from the server, or waiting until something comes from the server, and then the connection to the server breaks, so this one fails. I get an IO exception, and that's printed out here. Now my client is still running, so let's try to log in. And connection lost, restart program. Right, that happens because I'm calling the login here. I'm trying to send something to the server, but the server is no longer there. I catch the exception that is thrown, and then I fire a change. So my login result, the result of trying to log in, is basically connection lost. All right. And I could, of course, do things where I try to, if the connection is lost, then I maybe start another thread that will try to connect again, and then reset these and restart my thread here for listening and all kinds of stuff. And that's sort of outside the scope of this video. But for now, I can start the server, and I stopped my client, and I could get the response back, and it was okay. And I think I am fairly happy with that. I have one more thing I want to do. Hang on. I have my window again. Now, I don't have anything in here, and maybe I don't want to be able to click the button until I have something in here. So we're going to try and play around with the properties. So this in the view here, and see if we can figure out how to fix that. So this the button being enabled or disabled, that is what we call a state of the view here. The view can be in different states, and it basically means that something can be disabled or enabled, or shown or not shown, or hidden or closed, or in different colors, or whatever, right? And I don't want this part to be clickable. User not found. Result is null all the way through. I don't want it to be clickable until I actually have something in here. So let's see if we can figure out how that works. All right. The approach is that I want a property to handle the state of this button. So we say private, and that's a Boolean property. Either it's login button disabled property. That's probably a good name. And we say new Boolean, simple Boolean property, and I want to give it false initially, right? And okay, I need a get method. Public Boolean. I'll do the quick one. Getter Boolean property. Don't need that part. There we go. Okay, so this property here is now controlling whether my button is enabled or disabled, and that means in the controller I need to bind that. So I need my button here. I need to have a reference to my button. So we go. What do I call that? Call that. Let's go here. I find my button, unregistered button, and we say fx id equals to login button. All right. That was not a good approach, because this is the login button, and apparently I do have an ID already. I wonder why. So I can just alt enter. I want to create a field, and I want to make that field private. Come on, like that. Okay. My login button is not used, so let's say here login button disabled property. Disabled property, disabled. That is a read only. I cannot set it. I wonder which one. I will try this one. And I just want to bind just one directional, because I can really interact with the button from this side. And we go login view model, and we say login button disabled property. There we go. And now it's bound to that one. Okay, let's just give it a go and see what happens. And hopefully when it shows up, the button is initially disabled. All right, so apparently that is not going according to plan, but I do think that's because I'm setting the disabled to false, so that means it's enabled. So let's just say this is true, and give it a go. We'll give it another go. And lo and behold, the button is disabled. Okay, good start, good start. Now then I need to figure out how do I enable this one, and we say here I can say my username dot, I want to add listener, so I want to listen to the changes in this one. Whenever it changes, I want to react to that. And we say, let me just check, because I can just steal this part, that. And then we say on username change, and I want to give it, so this here is the old value, and this here is the new value, and I want to give it the new value like that, and then I want to create a method, there we go. And I want to set the login button disabled, does set, right? And the value I want to set here, let's just do it like this, disabled. And the button should be disabled if new value is equal to null, or new value equals nothing. All right. So if there's nothing in the username, then I want to set it as disabled. All right, let's see what happens. And I have my window. Button is disabled. Oh, it's enabled. Oh, it's disabled. Oh, it's enabled. Disabled. Enabled. Stuff works. much impressive, and I can still log in. Log in. Ah, crap. I commented this out in an attempt to fix something. I can still log in. Right. So I think that's all for this video. In the next one, we will move on to the we'll move on to the create account. Yes, that's what we're doing. Sorry, I lost track of whatever it is I lost track of. So in the next video we'll do the login account, so or create one, and that means there's a register button, and when I click this I want to be able to open this one, and then I can create a user and put it in the server backend part. All right, that's the idea. All right, thanks for watching.